there are some jokes which which make us laugh and have a nice time and all that, but there's some jokes which are very thought provoking, and normally those are the jokes that we don't like. So I'm just going to crack one of those jokes which we don't like to hear. Okay. And that is the typical jokes which compare people from different countries. It's a very racist joke in a way. Okay. But anyway, I'll go ahead and mention that joke. I'll narrate that joke. This is about, it's a joke which says, what do people from different countries do when they get together? So the joke goes like this. What do people what happens when four or five Japanese get together? And the answer, I believe, and I told you I don't like this joke, but it is very thought provoking, is that they industrialize. They're very hardworking people and they get together. What do two or three Jews get together? Whenever they get together, what do they do? And the answer is that they enterprise. They're very enterprising people. What do two or three Americans get together whenever they meet up? The answer is that they socialize. Now you can type on the chat and I can this thing. What do two or three Indians do when they get together? I told you I don't like the joke, but it's a very thought provoking joke. And I've heard this joke outside this country. What do two or three Indians do when they get together? Better now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's just a
Yeah.
loose connection. Yes. So exactly what Ashish Ratnaraj has said. When two or three Japanese get together, industrialize, Germans or Jews get together, enterprise, Americans get together, socialize, two or three Indians get together, they criticize. And that's true. I mean, we are a nation. I feel it's true. I don't like the joke, but we love criticizing. In fact, we get together with strangers and we criticize. So you're sitting in the train, you hardly know the people there, you just been there for a minute, and the first bout of conversation itself starts. These trains never start on time. The railway minister is this, right from this city to the country to everything, we start blasting people. The coach is not comfortable, this that, and we love criticizing. Now I just want to tell you today that whether you like this joke or not, just accept it that this is how a lot of people see us. Highly effective people. Stephen Covey was given a task by a big multinational corporation to study the behavioral programs that are very useful for that. They wanted to have an org wide, and that organization was more than 150,000 people across the world at that point of time. They wanted to have an org wide behavioral training program. They called it BMOD, behavioral modification. And as part of that assignment, Stephen Covey took 150 years back. That first 50 years is different in the latest 150 years, he said, which is remarkable. And then he goes on to categorize it. He says, in the first 50 years, you look at it, most of the topics are to do with building character. And in the recent times, most of the topics, the self help topics, the training topics, are to do with building personalities. Now, just look at this: character versus personality. You have to realize what your character is. Let me do a little demonstration. Okay. Now, ding dong, your doorbell is ringing. And then you open the door, and there's a salesman there. He's dressed up in the sweltering heat of Chennai, and I heard that Chennai is really, really hot now. He's dressed up in a suit with a tie, or he's at least having a tie. And he says, uh, Good afternoon, madam. Good afternoon, sir. I'm from so and so vacuum cleaning company, and I'm here to just demonstrate the power of this new vacuum cleaner. And I just want to do some demonstration and clean your home. And I'm very interested in making sure that you have a clean home. And this is the best product that is there to help you. And hey, I see a tennis racket there on the wall, and how interesting that is. Maybe I love tennis too. Maybe we can go and play tennis sometimes. After all, some great tennis players have come out of Chennai, so maybe we both can be the next great tennis player. He goes on and on. What do you feel like doing? Tell me, please. Please put it in the chat. What do you feel like doing at that point of time? You want to hug him? You want to slam the door? You want to make some excuse and send him away? Slamming the door on his face. Nivedita, I'll never ever come to your house. Get annoyed. Give him lime soda. And that is, I will talk about that. Thank you for reminding me, Jobin. I will talk about that. Nutella, Carolyn, you're right. Okay, it's obvious that you don't like Nutella, so you'll give him Nutella. But I think you get the drift of it. You're not impressed by his spiel. Florence Rajkumar is getting into a different thing. Buttermilk. I'm not. The question is not what will you give him. Okay. The question is that okay, fine, thank you. And the thing is, you will. I think the general reaction is you're not impressed. Okay, and the reason you're not impressed, even though he has just come brand new from a training program is on how to make a good sale, and he's following the instructions to a T, but yet you're not impressed. Even though he's doing very well as per his manual, he's saying all the right things, you're not impressed. You know why? Because all that he's offering to you has come out of that zone which is called the personality, which is very superficial. If you have to go deeper than personality, it is character. And I want to very humbly tell you that we are surrounded by sessions, by even a session on how to break bad habits, largely can deal with personality. But if you have to realize who you are, you have to go deeper than personality. The life changing aspects happen a little deeper than the surface of the lake. You have to go deeper and deeper, deeper than the surface of the lake. If you look at the iceberg, the more significant part is unseen, it is underwater, and that is character. Character has been defined by D.L. Moody as what you are when no one is watching you, which brings me to the next point. So the first thing is that you have to realize who you are. The second point is a good person will be revealing as far as his character is. If you want to hide something, there is something wrong. If you want to reveal something, that speaks about your confidence, that speaks about the power of your transparency, that speaks about how in how what do you say, how sorted out you are as a person. If you want to hide something, you're not sorted out. There's something to hide because inherently you know when something is good or when something is bad. I'll tell you very honestly. Luckily, my wife is not here on this call. Thanks, Jobin, for not sending the link. But oh, just now someone opened the door. But I'll still give you the example. Okay. Um, Sometimes I have a policy that the password, even though I lock it for security reasons, the password is shared with all my family. So anyone in my family can take my phone and unlock it and check what is happening there. They don't want to do it, but sometimes when they do it because they want to get some number and I'm too busy, or they want to order something and my phone is the best way to order because it is linked to my card. When they do it, honestly, sometimes I feel not very comfortable. And involuntarily, even though I may be busy in a session like this, my hand reaches out to try and take the phone back from them. It involuntarily happens. And when that happens, I ask myself, do I have something to hide? And I want to tell you that great character is built when you're willing to reveal who you are. Sometimes it happens. Recently, a mother told us, she was telling Sheila and me, she's saying, I didn't know that my son was thinking this way when he came out and when he said things. For 22 years, I've known him. He's on my own son, but I did not even know that this is happening in his life. A wife came and said, I don't know this person. Recently, after several years of marriage, they moved abroad. And she called up one early morning, her time. In our time, it was around 10 a.m., but in her time, it was almost, 4:30, no, 5:30 a.m. in the morning. And she called and she said, I saw some part of his character which I'd never seen before. Is this the same person that I got married to? After so many years, I'm seeing a part of him. I'm telling you, you have to, if you're not able to reveal who you are, if you're hiding, you're wearing a mask. And I'm not talking about the COVID mask, I'm talking about the mask of pretension. So this is the philosophical, the psychological basis, that you should realize who you are, the power of introspection, the power of character, and you should reveal who you are. If there's something to hide, it's not a good sign. Even at this time, I want to tell you very honestly. And then when it comes to habits, the good thing is, and I just loved the way you answered this. You bang, you hit the nail on the head. Some of you, of course, said that it is easy to break a habit, not easy to form one. But that's true. I agree with what Andrew surmised from there. It's much easier to form a new habit than to break an old one, because it's simple to break a old one. And this is the third R that I want to know it. Rather than break, you should replace. A simple, very, very popular example. And by the way, when you're doing that introspection, one of the things that you should know, that habit forming behavior normally has something called triggers. Some people say this only happens to me when this happens to me. So the mind always forms patterns. you know um, Now it has been taught to me in my childhood for more than 21 days. So the moment I get up, of course I do pray, I say a quick prayer, but the first thing I do after that is I go to brush my teeth. So it is involuntarily, it has become an unconscious part of my life. And the learning ladder, it should become an unconscious competency. You should not even be conscious about it. That means it's a habit. It should become a competency that is unconscious. So for me, waking up is a trigger to brush my teeth. And brushing my teeth is a trigger to have some chai. In Chennai, I believe you have coffee mostly. I don't know. But in Hyderabad, you have chai in the morning, you have tea. And so brushing my teeth is a trigger to have chai. And this is a little awkward, but I'll reveal who I am. Getting the newspaper in my hand is a trigger to go to the loo. So these are triggers, and these are automatic triggers. So that is how it is with habits too. Look out for the triggers that form your habits. So coming back to the classic example of how to replace a bad habit with a good one. So this is not just one person, this is a very popular thing. Say the moment I'm done with work or the moment I'm done with college, I head out with a group of friends. And then we chat, and the moment we meet, meeting itself is a trigger to opening a bottle. And that happens so automatically we have not realized it. Seeing each other's faces, automatically the next thing is to open up a bottle. How do I break that? The best way to break it is to replace it with something else. So maybe soon after you're done with work or soon after you're done with college, instead of heading towards your friends, which is a trigger to the next set of habits that come, you can head to the gym, or you can head to some other new game or sport that you've taken up. So basically, it is better, rather than trying to break it and just be empty. You can't be empty, you have to replace it with something else. So gradually form another habit and replace it. That's the power of replacing. So always understand where your habits will lead you. Almost about 25 years ago, I went through a coaching seminar. Was It was basically, it was called a human process lab. way, not in Mahabalipuram, but there's a place called Mahabaleshwar, and somewhere there, there's a place called Panchgani. For a week, we were there in the lab, and we were taught to form life goals. So when I came back home, that entire weekend, I was making my life goals. And the life goals is not just the goals, and it took a lot of introspection. It was not just the goals, and I had done it in four different areas of my life. And in each of those areas, I had goals. For each of those goals, I had activities that I would build. And that whole weekend, I realized I had filled up an entire, A3 size chart paper, making my goals. And so almost every aspect of my life was mapped in those goals. And everything that I did, every little action that I did was mapped to one goal. For instance, um, drinking a glass of water also. I used to drink water before, but now when I drank a glass of water, I knew that it was part somewhere, layers and layers, but it was part of the larger goal, which is about my health. So every little activity. I used to watch television before, but now when I turned out the television, it was a little more focused. Believe me or not, it was linked up to my goal, my communication goals. I wanted to improve my. So now I was watching television. I was watching only that which would help me in my goal to build my communication skills. So every little activity, it is possible if you do that life goal exercise. I told you it took a whole A3 size chart paper, a large chart paper. Every little activity of my life was mapped to one goal or the other. And sometimes it would just be leisure, but that leisure also was part of some goal or the other. And it would be leisure that would be, not just for hours on end, but there would be a focus even for the leisure time. So everything of my life was mapped by those life goals. And what I want to tell you in the third R replace is that you should systematically replace the bad habits with good ones, which means you should be able to visualize. The problem is that the bad habits are, the people who can't break the bad habits is because in many cases, I'm being very honest with you, they don't even agree that it is a bad habit. So you should visualize where this bad habit is leading you, but that's a kind of a negative thing. And sometimes the negative thing robs the energy. It actually scares you so much. For instance, all those pictures of how the lung is eaten up when you smoke and all that. And I've seen people still smoke in spite of that. Is they get so scared that it is a kind of a negative motivation, and that negative motivation does not work. And I'll come back in a little while to tell you the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. But a positive motivation helps. So you should think rather as to where this good habit is going to lead you. So, for instance, if you're going to the gym, how the gym is going to help you, you visualize, you make pictures in your mind as to how that fitness will help you. You can imagine, the flat stomach. You can imagine the fit figure that you have. You can imagine people talking about it. You can imagine your ability to spring up so easily from a squatting position, all because of your fitness. You can visualize all these things, and this is a positive visualization. I'll come to the last R, and this is a continuation of this, is that you should be able to reward yourself. Reward yourself in a positive way. Don't beat yourself. And I'm telling you, this negative motivation is very dangerous. So, this is my humble thing, because I've seen people for years, their parents, their siblings, and even now their family are berating them about the bad habit, and they've not changed, because all this is actually battering their own self esteem. But it's better to have a positive habit and to replace that. And I just want to give you what is being talked about now is not just the 21 days, but the 21 stroke 90. So for 21 days, you build that habit. And then the next goal after you reach that 21, don't just relax. Just tell yourself that for the next 3 months, I will continue to build that habit. And by the way, step by step is more important than dramatic improvements. It's more powerful than dramatic improvements. So let me tell you a little story, and I'm close to closing. Jobin, from the time point of view, is another 3 4 minutes okay? 5 minutes okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sure. No, right, fine. So I believe in Nazi Germany. Okay, at the time when the Nazi feeling, the time when the Third Reich was just getting into prominence in the late 1930s. This is a true story. There was a Jewish tailor in Berlin who suddenly found a group of teenagers, adolescents, outside his shop, his tailoring shop, and they were shouting anti Semitic slogans, anti Jewish slogans. They were shouting hate messages against the Jews. And the tailor, the Jewish tailor, was small in build, and he was actually shivering in his boots because what he heard of was coming true. The hatred was spilling out into the streets. It was the late 1930s. The Second World War had not yet started. Germany had not yet started invading others. And the full prominence of that diminutive person, Hitler, had not yet come into play. But the hatred was spilling into the streets, and it was causing striking terror in the hearts of the Jewish people. But this very clever tailor, he hatched a plan, and he went out and he stood in front of those adolescents. They were well built guys. There were some of them were towering above him. And he took his courage into his hands and went and stood right in the midst of them. And he said, you know what he said? He said something that baffled them. He said, I kind of like it when you come and shout outside my shop. It gives me some kind of a publicity. And so I'm going to reward you. And he quickly put a few Deutschmarks in each person's hand, and he quickly stated out a few conditions. He said, if you come and you do this every day, you will get paid for what you do, and but you should be here for at least an hour and things like that. And to their utter surprise, he put those Deutschmarks in his hands and disappeared into the shop. These guys stared at what they had in their hands and stared at each other. They were totally bamboozled. But nevertheless, they came back the next day, they shouted, and he paid them. And they came back the next day and he paid them. They came back the next day and he paid them. And a few days later, the next phase of the plan was put into action. He said, you know what? Recession. The 1930s, by the way, were known for recession, lack of business, all these things. I can't pay you as much as I did yesterday. And so it is a little less. He started reducing their pay. And but then it was still good. They were getting paid for what they came, so they still came. And even though the pay was steadily getting reduced, they still came and they shouted till one day he said, sorry folks, today all I can afford you is one coin each. And he put this one coin in their hands, and till one of them was enraged and he flung the coin on his face. You think we have no other work than to come here and for such a meager pay come and shout every day, do all this hard work and shout and go like that? You think we have no other work? And they flung the coin on his face and they never came back again. So what the Jewish tailor had done, listen to me very carefully, because I'm telling you something that we use very often in our HR terminology, was he switched their motivation from intrinsic motivation to extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation can be manipulated. Intrinsic motivation is much more powerful. They were coming and shouting there because they were indoctrinated. They had a natural hatred for the Jews. And though it was a negative thing, it was still an intrinsically motivated young guys who were coming and shouting there. But by giving money into their hands, he had switched their motivation from intrinsic to extrinsic. And the moment they came there for the money, he was able to manipulate them. The reason I'm saying this is, for the past 30 years, I went for my first campus recruitment in 1990. And at that time, believe me, I'm not joking. At that time, people were fairly eager to implement what they learnt in college. A mechanical engineer really wanted a mechanical engineering job. An instrumentation engineer was very fussy and said, I want to do a job where my instrumentation engineering is useful, a chemical engineer, civil engineering. In just a few years time after India's economic independence happened in 1991, I could see how the scene in the campus had switched. I saw it before my very eyes. People started getting jobs just for the sake of the salary and the perks and what you offer them. And I had one guy arguing with me saying that company is giving me 1,000 rupees more, 1,500 rupees more, and I think I should go there, not bothering about what they're doing. Now these pay, position, perks, these are all extrinsic motivators. The desire to do a change in the world, the desire to serve others, the desire to make an impact in this world, the desire to be creative, the desire to achieve something in your life, self actualization, these are intrinsic motivators. I want to tell you, when you build that habits of the habits that replace your bad habits, make sure that you understand what intrinsically motivates you, and make sure those habits are about those intrinsic motivators. I want to tell one last thing and I'll close. Intrinsic motivating habits are normally not something that is about you. It is something about how there is a purpose why you are in this world. There's a purpose why everyone is there in this world. And since today is Easter, I want to tell you that the purpose, very truly, I mean, when Jesus rose from the dead, he said, from now on, don't live for yourself, but live to serve others. And he said, the purpose, the one who has a purpose that they want to be a blessing to others, is a much more powerful person than a person who says that I'm here to serve myself. Because the one for whom I, me, and myself is on the throne of the heart is very shallow. In whatever habits they are, they will never last. They will actually lead you into a dead end in your life. But if your habit, if you realize that there is a divine person who has placed you in this world for a purpose, and you're here because you want to, your purpose can only be fulfilled, whatever, however you articulate your purpose in your life, it can only be fulfilled if you are a blessing to someone apart from yourself. And then I'm telling you, the habits that you build, the habits that you replace, the way you reward yourself will be far more powerful. A quick recap. So realize who you are, reveal who you are, replace your habits with good habits, and then be a person who rewards not just yourself with the true intrinsic motivation, but be a reward for others, be a blessing to others. And may God bless you. And I just hope and pray, because the power of prayer is very strong. Pray often that God will help you and lead you from the bad habits to the good ones. Your life should be a series of better and better habits that will define you. May God bless you and lead you. Thank you very much.